Hi, this is Kris Peters for the Hampton History Museum, and today we're going to take a few minutes to talk about some of the swords that would have been used by the English soldiers here at Fort Algernon. Now, 400 years ago, there were lots of different sword types in Europe. Some swords had straight blades, some were curved, some were short, some were long. There's lots of different handles and guards. Some have a simple ring guard or shell guard. Some have a basket hilt that actually looks like a woven metal basket and offers a lot of protection for your hand. Some have a swept hilt. Some swords had plain wooden handles. Some had a wooden handle covered in leather or shark skin or ray skin, which offers a more positive grip. And then some swords even had a grip covered with twisted wire, which offers very positive control. So there's a lot of different types of swords out there. One of the more basic types would have been a hanger like this one. So hangers typically have a fairly short, curved blade, sharp on one edge, with a simple ring guard and an S-shaped quillet. Plain wooden handle. So this is a very basic kind of sword. It's lightweight, it's easy to carry, and it's pretty versatile. They found lots of parts for hangers like this here in Virginia, but probably the most common type of sword would have been rapiers like this one. Now we're going to break this down into its parts and talk about how a sword is put together, and then we'll talk a little bit about how it's meant to be used. Now with a rapier, you almost always have a straight blade, and it's going to be sharp on both edges with a nice sharp point, which makes this a pretty versatile sword. It's good for cutting, it's good for stabbing. The end of the sword's blade is called the tang, and it continues all the way down through the handle to the end. And this is what allows you to put the guard and the handle on. So the swept hilt on this rapier slides up over the tang until it reaches the back of the blade. Then the handle, and this one's wrapped in wire, goes on, and then the pommel goes on to hold it in place. Now the pommel does two things. First, it holds the sword together and keeps the handle and guard on, but it also helps balance the sword. And how a sword is balanced affects how you use it. Most rapiers are going to be balanced just in front of the guard, and this pommel weighs as much as the rest of the blade. So having that balanced pommel on the back makes this a very versatile weapon because you have a lot of control over where the point is. Now, rapiers with a swept hilt are very versatile because of the way you hold them. And when we talk about how you hold a sword, the way that you grip it has a lot of effect on how you use it. If you hold a sword with a very closed grip like this one, you're going to have some very powerful cutting, but you're going to have a lot of trouble stabbing. And that's because with a closed grip, it's going to be very difficult to get the point down. When you extend your arm out, your wrist is going to keep the point of the sword up. So you're going to have a lot of trouble dropping the point down. You're going to have a lot of trouble extending your arm and getting force behind it. So having a closed grip like this offers very strong cutting, but hampers your ability to thrust because of the odd angle that your wrist will be at. Now, a rapier with a swept hilt is designed to move one finger in front of the main guard, and that's all it takes to open up your grip, and then you can bring the pommel up next to your wrist. And this really opens up how you can use the weapon because now, when you extend your arm, you can keep the sword straight in front of you. You can make that sword an extension of your arm, and the balance of the weapon means that you have very good point control. So now you can use your wrist to control the sword. You can bring the point down, you can bring the point up, you can still cut with it, but you've got much more control and you can put a lot of power behind it when you thrust. So rapiers like this are very versatile weapons, and if you were one of the gentlemen coming to Virginia at the beginning of the 17th century, you had spent years and years learning how to use this. In fact, some gentlemen started as young as 7 or 8 years old being trained to use a rapier, and as an adult, you actually carried this with you when you were out in public. It was kind of a status symbol. So the gentry spent years and years learning how to use them. And most of their training would have been focused on balance and how to move while using the weapon. In most cases, you're also going to have a defensive item in your left hand. So that could be a target, which would be a large round shield that looks something like Captain America's shield, where it's strapped to your arm. You can move it up and down. You can defend yourself. You can knock blows to the side. Very versatile. You could also have a smaller round shield called a buckler, which is about the size of a small dinner plate. That would be held by one hand out extended like this, and now you can use that buckler to deflect enemy blows or even punch people with it. And so that offers a lot of versatility. Probably the most basic thing that you would have, though, is a dagger like this one. And the dagger is going to be used defensively while your sword is used offensively. So a lot of the training would have been focused on how you balance. You want to put your left foot forward and your right foot back, and you want to turn your body a little bit so that that dagger or shield is out in front of you. And now you can defend yourself from incoming blows. So by having your feet spread apart, one in front and one behind, you can shift your body back and forth to lunge, you can turn very easily, and you can shift your waist and your shoulders back and forth. This gives you a lot of mobility, and you're very well balanced. By having your left arm in front, you can defend. So this is the stance they would have been trained at from a very young age. And so if somebody lunges at me with a rapier like this one, I'm going to use that dagger to deflect the blow, to sweep it aside, either up or down. And as I do that, I turn my body towards my enemy. And so now if I've got my sword down at the ready, when they come to attack me, I sweep their attack to the side, and now I can use my sword to attack them. So this is what they would have been trained from a very young age in how to parry and attack at the same time. Now, you can also lunge with this weapon. So by having that left foot forward, now if I'm going to attack somebody, I can bring my right foot in front and close the distance with my enemy while also putting my right arm, my sword arm, out in front. And then I can extend my arm. And even with my arm extended way out here, the sword is straight with my arm. I've got a lot of power behind it, and I've still got very good point control because of the way that I'm holding it. So now, when I'm ready to attack, I can lunge and withdraw back to a defensive stance. So rapiers like this one were very versatile weapons because of the way that you could hold it and the way that you were trained to use it. Now, this has been a very simple overview of the swords that would have been here 400 years ago. There's a lot more that I could say, but I'm trying to keep things simple. So thank you for joining me, and I hope to see you again.